Hello there, this is Mikhail or Michael speaking. Now, to the situation in Bakhmut. First of all, we have to understand that recently the conflict between the official Russian army and PMC Wagner and its leader Prigozhin has ended. This resulted in Russian forces coming in and reinforcing Wagner troops within and around Bakhmut. That itself led to the fact that the Wagner troops had concentrated in Bakhmut, and it continues to happen as of right now as Russian forces are reinforcing Wagner troops here. They are pulling back and getting into the city. As of right now, the hottest place on the map is the rail line. Somewhere around 24 hours ago, Russians had stormed and captured this sector right here, but were successfully counter-attacked by the Ukrainian forces and had to retreat. In a previous video, I stated that the Ukrainians have extensive defensive line all along the rail line in attempt to shield the remaining parts of the city from the Russian assaults. I also said that if Russians want to keep control over the rail line, they should attack as fast as possible to move the front line away from the rail lines and make the rail lines basically their rear. The reason why Ukrainian troops are holding to those rail lines is obvious. As you can see, the only sector of high-rise buildings that remains is this one right here, and small portion here as well, for which Russians are fighting as of right now, but the rest of the city is a residential area. So the rail line provides Ukrainian troops the only solid defense line that can stop Russians from wreaking havoc within the last remaining part of the city of Bakhmut. Russians also took this train station as well, but it would seem that Ukrainians had counter-attacked and threw Russians back behind those tree lines. One reason why this is possible, as you can see right near the train station, there is a set of high-rise buildings that would provide Ukraine with great line of sight as well as good fire position. The Russians also lost Hotel Transit and had retreated some way back. Heavy fighting continues around Stadium Avangard. Some Ukrainian sources suggest that the Stadium Avangard never fell to the Russians, but overall it is safe to say that this entire sector is very hot as of right now, and there are a lot of battles happening along these streets and for the control of this city blocks. Then we go to the Samolyot district. Here Russians, as always, are attacking towards this school in attempt to reach Tchaikovsky Street here. It would seem they still have control over the school and this set of high-rise buildings here, but it would seem that Russians had stopped attacking, but Ukrainians had intensified their attacks in this sector. Then we have the north of Bakhmut. Russians are continuously attacking from these directions in the overall direction of the school. Once again, this is the high-rise building sector. So perhaps if Russians would be more successful here, they can advance along these streets and reach the train station here, thus attacking Ukrainians from front and rear and forcing them to retreat. Again, this sector should not be too hard for the Russians to take, as it is mostly a residential area with 1 to 2 stories buildings. So overall, it would seem that this front will move faster than the rest of the fronts in the Bakhmut city. There's also a video I want to show you. It is a drone footage. POV of that video would be somewhere right here, looking in this directions. You would immediately see these buildings right here, as well as the destroyed building located here. And from then on, you will see what's happening in Bakhmut as of right now. Again, I will put some music, or maybe I won't put some music, depends on what I will find. But overall, here you go. So there was, as you could see on the video itself, a lot of parts of Bakhmut is covered with thick smoke. It is because Russians are constantly bombarding the city itself. It is another problem for the Ukrainian forces. You have to understand that the less Ukrainians are controlling, the less soldiers they can put into the city itself. Because if they over-concentrate their forces in any of the sectors, Russians could just artillery strike that sector and destroy a lot of soldiers. So more soldiers doesn't mean better in this situation. However, Russians are not really limited to that, so they can use as many soldiers as they want. Again, right now, the most important battle is happening over the rail line. With its fall and the fall of this sector right here, I'm sure Ukrainian defensive lines would crumble. Of course, they could retreat back to this sector right here, which Russians will have very hard time attacking. It's not that problematic for Ukrainians to support it. The reports say that the tunnel that leads from Chasiv Yar to Bakhmut is actually located in this sector, as well as there are roads that lead to this sector as well. So it wouldn't be that much of a problem to supply. Perhaps they will leave some elite troops and when the time comes, would evacuate via tunnel and detonate it and not let Russians use it as well. So this is my analysis on Bakhmut. If you like my video so far, please consider supporting it with a like, comment, and of course a subscription. And please consider supporting me financially. Just know every cent, every dollar would help me put food on my table and pay for rent and bills, as well as get me closer to my dream of working full-time on YouTube. Thank you in advance, and let's continue on. Weirdly enough, there are no reports of Russian attacks towards Ivaniivsky and in general direction of this road. Russians were assaulting the village of Khramovo for some time, but without any success as of right now. Then we have Russian forces assaulting Bogdanivka and attacking on these fields in the direction of 00506 road here. Fighting continues near Grigorivka, so overall in between Bogdanivka and Grigorivka. Then Russians also fighting in Orekhovo-Veselivka, battling out for the control of the settlement, and fighting along the E40 highway and near Zalishniansky. Here, Russians and Ukrainians were combating over the control over Spirne, and as a result of that, Ukrainians were able to recover some of the land here. However, they were not able to recover the gas station that is located here. Fighting for the village Spirne continues as of right now. Then we have same situation in Belokharivka, where both Ukrainians and Russians are tangled in positional style warfare, with no one actually winning any ground. Fighting intensified in the Serebryansky forest. Again, Russians had launched several attacks all along the front line, some of them successful, some of them are not. Russians are also fighting from Dibrova in the direction of Zarichny here. But once again, it comes with a price. The Russian forces had conducted limited military operations towards Yampolivka, Terny, Nevsky, and Makiyivka. Then we have Avdiivka. As you can see, village of Kamyanka remarkably stands. Russians are continuously fighting here around Novokalinova, trying to extend their zone of control around Krasnokharivka and Novobakhmutivka here. They are capturing more and more patches of this road here, with occasionally launching assault towards Novokalinova village itself and Keramik as well. They still control this patch of railroad, with occasional assaults towards Stepova and Berdichi. To the south of Avdiivka, situation remains the same. Russians are fighting heavily here in the open fields where a lot of Ukrainian trenches are located. Nor Russians or Ukrainians had reported any successes or losses in this front. Then we have Russians also attacking towards Severne and Tanenki from Vodyane. Village Pervomaisky is next. As you can see, Russians are also launching their attacks from Vodyane in the direction to reach the center of Pervomaisky from the north, as well as they are attacking from the east from Pesky. They also conducted some limited military operations towards Nevelsky. Then we go to the Marinka front. Once again, a lot of reports are saying that Russians are being successful here, but as of right now, there are no positive reports for the Russian forces in this sector. Russians are continuously fighting to the north of Marinka and to the south of Marinka in attempt to capture village of Pobeda, and heavy fighting in Marinka itself, here especially in the center, continues. Then we have Novomikhailivka, where Russians are also conducting limited military operations, mostly using artillery here. Then we have Vuhledar, where situation again did not change much. Elite Russian troops are still battling out for the Dacha area. At this point, this area is turned into a rubble. Russians are also conducting attacks here towards the mines. Russian artillery is bombarding Vuhledar, trying to smoke out Ukrainian troops out of it. There is a place where Ukrainians were actually conducting their own limited military operations, and it is Zaporizhzhia front. They were especially active here around Arikhov, in Novodanilovka and Novoandriivka. Russian sources are claiming that Ukrainians had launched some of their counterattacks here, but those counterattacks were repelled by the Russian forces. Here in Kamyansky, we can see that Russians had recovered the land that they previously lost to the Ukrainian forces, so perhaps we will see more action in the entire Zaporizhzhia front. So this is the end of the video. Again, I hope you liked it. As always, humanity calls me to condemn all violence against human beings. Have a good day, and always remember, Russia will be free and great.